Good evening, Galaxy fans. Hello, everybody. This is Mike Gray. I'm a columnist for LAFC and LAFC, or the Galaxy for the Striker. And this is my co host. He is the beat writer for the Striker. Say hello to Alex Ruiz.
Good evening, everybody. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I kind of abused my body a bit over the past week. First, I dove around a whole bunch in that media game. Got a bunch of bruises. That was okay. And then we get to Sunday, and then my body has a mad sugar rush because hey, it was my birthday, which was pretty cool. And what ended up happening was I ended up bringing cupcakes. Long story. There's this place called Sprinkles. I don't know. I thought it was cool, so I went and picked those up in downtown LA, and actually got El Trafico cupcakes. So that like they were actually there are these Galaxy ones that are blue, white, and gold. LAFC ones that were like gold. They had a little championship star. But yeah, that was cool. So I had a good. I had a pretty good week. I didn't have a good week is Galaxy fans because if you're a fan of the blue, white, and gold, you just saw your home get run over by a bunch of black and gold cockroaches. But maybe you can talk a little bit about that, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was like a complete takeover of the stadium. Obviously, the 3252 are the only support groups at the stadium, so they're gonna make the noise. And for the 90 minutes, they were loud, they made noise. And I haven't gone to an LAFC game in a while, but I know you go to games, and I'm pretty sure you heard like LAFC chants throughout that game. But the Galaxy crowd got into it. Once the Galaxy were kind of fighting back. I wouldn't say it was like a terrible crowd for the Galaxy wise. They had 25,000 people there. As I said, the 3252 made the noise throughout a lot of the game, but this Galaxy crowd also wasn't silent the entire time. They were still able to kind of cheer on the team when things were going good for them or something happened here and there. It was a good soccer crowd. Obviously, the support groups, Angel City Brigade, LA Riot Squad, if they were there, would have made this even better. But I mean, it wasn't the complete disaster that I think a lot of people were expecting when it comes to the battle in the stands.
Yeah, it had the whole Derby El Trafico feel. It takes two to tango, and I think in a way, not having the supporters there to sort of goad the LAFC fans, it sort of worked against them a little bit because they had their moments, but outside of that, you just again it was back and forth. It was a lot of fun. There was actually another Klein out banner that was floating above the stadium for about 15 minutes there. Um, I had heard that there might be something like that, but I'm kind of conservative with my rumors, so I don't just say everything that comes between these two ears. So, let's see. Yeah, and for me, the atmosphere it was good for both teams, but I watched the replay today. It did come off as pretty deafening for the LAFC fans. I mean, after that second goal when they were chanting Carlos Vela, that was pretty deafening. But yeah, I think the president of soccer operations, Tom Braun. I saw him in the parking lot, just sort of on the way out. I had to rant to him a little bit because I'm tired of just everything being subjective. How was the atmosphere? You start talking, it's like, well, was it a good atmosphere or was it a bad atmosphere? And it's like, you know, um, just as an aside, I think we all want to see a resolution to this supporters boycott, and we just want to all see the fans back in the stands because uh, I tell you what, even though they weren't there, just being at a Trafico where everyone was into it, and we didn't have to like ask questions and just sort of observe it the entire time. That was really nice.
Yeah, it was definitely different feel than a lot of the other derby games I've been to. So, I wouldn't say it felt different for bad or good reasons, but it was a unique atmosphere, and I think whatever happens with the support groups boycott, it either could happen again or it's the last time we ever see something like this. But again, time will tell what happens with that conflict.
Yeah. Well, let's just get right to it, Alex. Pregame, we learned that Chicharitos was going to be starting. He looked a little rusty, but I thought he did a good job of just staying on the back shoulder of the defender, creating some danger. I believe it was Taylor Twellman who noted that uh, Jovic, he kind of kept everything in front of him versus Chichu, who was a bit more unpredictable. And, the first 20 minutes or so, the Galaxy looked pretty good.
Yeah, and I think Chicharito's impact was definitely very much felt throughout that first half. I think Tolman was right in that assessment. Chicharito gets a lot more involved in the build-up play. I think you'll see him drop down a little bit, and he just has that name. Chicharito. He's had this goal scoring prowess in Europe, so he's gonna have a bit more of that gravity to him. And everybody knows about Chicharito is those runs that he makes. He's gonna find that space to get a shot off, and I think Aaron Long and Jesus Murillo were worried about that all game. And because of that, he's able to kind of drag these defenders out. With him going out wide to kind of open up some space in the middle. Galaxy for I think the first half, I think I was telling you, Mike, I was like, I think this team is a lot better when they attack through the middle. And with Chicharito kind of moving a little bit out wide, as a nine, it kind of gave a bit more room in the middle for the Galaxy to operate. And yeah, he did look a little bit rusty. He made, I think, one shot that just went, didn't even. It was in the box, but it didn't even hit the target. It just went out for a throw in or a corner. I don't remember. But it was definitely one of those games where like if Chicharito's on form, like he's gonna score here. And I think if he, like I said, if he would have maybe played 2 or 3 games before this one, he would have been a lot sharper and would have put a lot of his chances away. He did have a chance, I think, in the 82nd minute. Ricky Puig plays this great ball that Aaron Long just can't get to. One-on-one chance. And you expect Chicharito to bury it, but he doesn't. Great save by John McCarthy there. But again, if Chicharito's in form, he scores at least one goal because he's been able to score goals against LAFC at home. And I think, this game, if he just gets a little bit more match fitness and he's, has a little bit more match sharpness as well. He gets at least one goal in this game.
Yeah, let's talk about Steve Cherundolo. I actually called him a mad scientist on our friend Rob's podcast the other day, and I think it's a fitting description because, I mean, he was so good at just building on what Bob Bradley accomplished at LAFC and just even added on it pretty further. And one of his things is that he's very good at tinkering. He doesn't just he's not willing to just settle on letting his superior talent just sort of play itself out over the course of 90 minutes. He likes to make adjustments and he likes to keep the opponents on their toes. I mean, he said, about the Galaxy that he wanted their midfield to break down, and I believe his words were he wanted them to crumble, right? And so what he did, he actually had a pretty good strategy. He kept both of his fullbacks in Ryan Hollington and Kiki Palacios. He kept them very conservative for the first 20
Mm-hmm.
minutes or so. And by doing that, LAFC were able to sort of withstand LA in the attack. And, it had sort of another effect, which is that the Galaxy, when they push forward, that was going to be LAFC's, that's their bread and butter is they wait for teams to sort of push up and then they can, basically just counterattack them to death. And
Yeah, that's
so,
basically what happened in the first goal. I think I analyzed it in my article today. Like Gaston Brugman has the ball in the middle of the pitch, and the Galaxy have 4 players up front because, like you said, the fullbacks were being very conservative. So I think Vanny was like, okay, let's push our fullbacks forward because their fullbacks are not getting forward. They're not playing as aggressively. And when Brugman gives the ball away, there's I think 5 or 6 players ahead of him. You have a line of 4 against the LAFC back line, and then Denny Bouanga just kind of takes the ball, runs towards it, and obviously the Galaxy defense is retreating. They're not really well organized. Mark Delgado gets a deflection off. I think it was Cifuentes who was trying to make a pass in the box. It ends up in the feet of Carlos Vela, and that's how you get the first goal. So that is LAFC's bread and butter, and it worked to get that first goal of the game.
yeah, they're basically playing right into LAFC's hands. And, if I'm going to make a few plugs tonight for the striker, but, one of our things was we like to point out that their front three basically interchange at will. Now, we already talked about LAFC making the adjustment with the fullbacks. Moments before the goal scored, Bouanga and Opoku switched places. And then, it was just a coincidence that Brugman happened to lose the ball. But because of that, he brings it forward and, sort of one thing leads to another. And then eventually Carlos Vela puts the ball in the back of the net. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if we look back and, like, they were told in advance at the 20-minute mark, go ahead and switch places because it worked brilliantly. And it took Galaxy a while to adjust.
Yeah, it definitely did. I think having that versatility in the front line is definitely great for LAFC. They've proven that they don't really need a nine, a traditional nine, to be successful. And you kind of saw that again today, where the Galaxy kind of make a mistake and LAFC just punish them immediately. Bouanga's the perfect player that you want to have when it comes to kind of leading that counterattack, that 4v4 that led up to Velo's goal. And I think this Galaxy defense, I thought they would have gone with maybe a back five, but the back four kind of was a little bit exposed at times, and obviously didn't look too great. But I think once the Galaxy kind of shifted to a bit of a back three later in the second half, they were a lot better. Not only just defending when the game got really wide open, but it also really helped the offensive side of things for Vanny's team.
Yeah, and then we have the Tyler Boyd banger. um, we you and me were actually in the box, and we were having a little discussion right before the goal because we Alex, being smart, he was looking at the passing chart and he noticed that Tyler Boyd wasn't getting the ball at all. One thing that we've both noticed over the course of the season is that Boyd tends to get less touches and he tends to be less dangerous on the ball, but where maybe that goes full circle is that uh, when he does have the ball and when he does have those touches, he offers something more dangerous and more unpredictable in attack, which if you're Vanny, you need because the squad's very predictable. And you saw what happened, just to set it up, Tyler Boyd has gotten a lot of opportunities, strangely enough, by making these like lung busting runs, but centrally. And you saw on the goal, he possesses the ball and then he ends up turning Cifuentes, takes a few touches and then scores a brilliant goal. Um, yeah, what did you think of that, Alex?
Yeah, I think it was just a moment of pure brilliance there from Tyler Boyd. I think Optajack kind of had that as like the longest goal scored in the LA Galaxy's history since that Zlatan goal in the first El Trafico, right? So this was, not necessarily like I wouldn't say it was, pure skill, but I think some luck included because, you know, all credit to Tyler Boyd. He hit that really, really hard. McCarthy kind of gets a touch to it. It's not enough. I think if he kind of gets a little bit of a better pairing on it, that doesn't go in the back of the net. But credit to Tyler Boyd for kind of taking his shot there, and I think the Galaxy have needed that a lot this year. I think Ricky Puig, Brugman, Doug, and Memo Rodriguez all shoot from so far out, 25, 23 yards is their average shooting distance. And you have Tyler Boyd from almost 36 yards out, kind of just shooting this rocket right into the back of the net. So I think that's a good sign for the Galaxy. That's definitely been one of the main ways that they've been trying to kind of get shots on target. And fortunately enough, Tyler Boyd kind of gets it past the goalkeeper. All credit to him. It was a moment of brilliance, great goal. Like you said, we were talking a little bit like Tyler Boyd was on an island. He wasn't getting much of the ball, wasn't getting very involved in the build-up play. He was kind of just that guy who was running against the back line, trying to open some gaps for Chicharito. But seeing him kind of get really involved in that game, I think he turned around. He got the ball, made a quick touch to get past Kellen Acosta, and then that led to that space for that goal. So I think it was good for Boyd to kind of be involved in the play, kind of show what he can do. And I think the more we get to see Tyler Boyd, the more we'll get to see him be a bit more effective in the final third. Because I think he's a player that can really elevate this Galaxy team. He definitely raises their ceiling if he can play at a really good level in MLS. And I think he's capable of doing that. He's played in Turkey and Europe for like the last 5, 6 years. So again, it's just about how do you utilize him best, and can he be able to get more goal scoring opportunities?
I was trying not to say it earlier, and I want to be chronological, but I kind of want to bring it up. It was a beautiful goal, right? But do you think, and I'm just going to put it to you, Alex, do you think that the Galaxy are still struggling to create real clear cut chances? Because it was a beautiful goal, right? But as we saw throughout the game, several times it seems that the Galaxy, he had a few opportunities with Chicharito, one on ones. But other than that, what I had to look it up. Like, what were the Galaxy's most dangerous opportunities of the game? You had the Ricky Pooch late one off the post. You had that early one that wasn't close. You have the goal from Boyd, and what these all have in common is I keep coming back to this. These shots from long distance, essentially that have a low expected goals percentage, and I do think the Galaxy can get goals that way, but they're not going to get them consistently. Are they?
I mean, like I mentioned earlier, right? Like this team is shooting from pretty far out. Like Brugman and Puig, that's kind of what they're gonna do. And obviously, Puig is a player who's nifty and can create his own space, so it makes sense that he's kind of shooting from there. Like I said, I think with an informed Chicharito, so he when he's a bit sharper, when he's match fit, like fully. I mean, I was really surprised he won 90 minutes this game.
Mhm.
But when he,
Yeah.
gets a few more games under his belt, I think we'll start to see those chances kind of clear up and be better. I know we're kind of going in chronological order, but like that Mark Delgado goal in the second half, that's exactly what you want to see. Where you have Chicharito kind of moving the defenders, moves Aaron Long to the near post, and then you have a midfielder running into the box, which is Mark Delgado, and the ball kind of gets past Long and Chicharito right into the feet of Delgado for a tap, and like that's what you want to see. And I think as the season progresses, we'll start to see a bit more and more of that. I don't think Joveljic provides that kind of impact to the game as much as Chicharito does. But it's still something that I think we'll start to see more and more of. Again, he's their leading goal scorer from last year. He influences the game a lot more than just his scoring and his finishing. So I think we'll start to see the Galaxy play like a little bit more like that 2022 side those last 10 games of the year. Because there's a lot of good signs from this game that we saw from that last stretch of the last season.
Agreed. Just a quick hi to everyone in the chat room. We got people watching. I saw Andy. I saw some other names. Hey, everybody. We're still getting used to this, so uh, making these segments and making transitions. We're figuring it out. I do have a transition button that I use from time to time. But all right. Now where were we? Vanny talked about how the team shot themselves in the foot and how basically gave the game away. And I don't think anything could exemplify that any more than the Galaxy's second goal that they gave away. Now, Josh Gessman, our good buddy at Corner of the Galaxy, he's talked a lot in the past few years as a theme about how this team gets too emotional. And oh man, it was all right. Uh, basically, Bouanga just he sprays a ball wide for a throw in. Raheem Edwards, he jogs over to the loose ball to pick it up, which happens to be right in front of the 3-2-5-2. And it's funny. You kind of see Edwards slow down a little bit, and it's not. It's when you walk in front of that many people, you tend to want to like slow things down. And I saw Raheem do that, and it's funny. Just even something as small as that means you're getting knocked off your concentration. And man, I don't know what happened, but he had the ball and he just made an errant throw in, and Sifu, sort of beats Koulibaly to it. And even if Koulibaly had maybe been on his toes, maybe not been so flat-footed, because Sifu he plays the ball, but it's a bad touch. So as long as he doesn't do the challenge, everything's going to be fine. But he ends up getting tackled, and then there's a PK, and then Vela scores. And Alex, it's kind of a tragedy because I mean, but sometimes they say you have to play a perfect game against LAFC, and they basically just gave it away.
Yeah, that was really avoidable. I kind of wrote in my article today, like every single one of these LAFC goals were completely avoidable. And, obviously every goal is, but to this degree against LAFC and the opportunities and mistakes that the Galaxy made, like you've got to do better. And I think Vanny expects better. I was surprised, when we were at the press conference, right? And he talks about the game and he says, we killed ourselves today because that's a strong term to use, but he's right. They killed themselves today. They caused these wounds that were totally avoidable. And I think, coming into this game, Vanny was probably talking to the squad like, "Hey, we need to cut these little things out, and look what they lead to." I think I highlighted in on a tweet last week about kind of how Chicharito kind of tries to do too much, and he loses the ball, even though there's simple solutions to get it out, and that leads to Houston's third goal. For this second goal, Raheem Edwards, I understand how the Galaxy want to play. They're going to be comfortable in their own half, trying to play out of it. But I mean, think of the scenario and the context to this, right? Which is, context has been a pretty big word in the LA Galaxy media availabilities recently. But Sekou Coulibaly has just come into the game, and he's still trying to get into the rhythm of this game. This is somebody who hasn't played all year, hasn't featured all year, is coming back from injury, and is trying to play, in an intense, high-speed, derby. This game has a lot of emotion and it wears you down. I don't understand why you would immediately want to kind of play the ball to him. And let's note as well, like he's not like close to Raheem. Like this is a ball that you need to add some pace to because he's maybe like a good 15 yards away. I don't understand what was going on. I thought maybe kind of maybe give it to somebody closer, kind of boot it out. LAFC were already kind of in the formation to start pressing immediately once the ball got in there. So I don't understand how Raheem not only didn't read that, Sega is not the guy you kind of want to put in a high pressure situation immediately. And also LAFC are already in a pressure formation. They already look like they're ready to press immediately once the ball gets into the pitch again. So it was just a goal that really rubs, my head the wrong way because now you give up a penalty. Vela gets his second goal, and this is a penalty kick that if you kind of would have, taken a little bit more time to be cool about it, this entire goal scenario would have not happened.
Yeah, it's difficult because just to bring up some nuance, Vanny was pissed on Thursday at that press conference, and one of the things that I do think I need to clear up is one of the talking points was that Vanny lost the locker room. Uh, One of the very positive things I saw about yesterday's game is that the Galaxy clearly have not given up on Vanny. In fact, they had a hell of a lot of fight. I like this team fighting until being down 3-1 against LAFC and coming back. I like Ricky Puig putting a positive message on social media after the game. This looks like a united group. But to clarify, what I was talking about when I was criticizing Vanny, I feel that there's disciplinary issues. Sometimes I feel like Vanny's a little soft on his players. Sometimes I feel like he needs to directly criticize them and not just make everything about, well, we could have, we should have, but we didn't. After a while, it's just your players just aren't good enough, right? And where I had a really big problem was with the Costa situation, and again, I'll clarify. Uh, Costa did something terrible. He intentionally got himself kicked out of the game. And now, if Vanny or the player at any time wants to talk about that, let's do it, and I'll be willing to listen. I would, if Costa told us that he was trying to play the ball to Ricky and screw it up, I'd be willing to listen to that. I'm not saying I believe him, but, I want to hear it from him. I want to hear it from somebody. But again, Vanny saying that he apologized and that it was all good after the game, no. It's not in a million years. And so, um, Edwards, he had that reaction after the Dallas game, and man, in a way, this is a good thing because you anticipate that he's going to double down and work twice as hard to not only just, with Adi coming into the lineup, to just sort of do everything he can to get as much playing time as possible. So I see this as a good, what's the expression, making lemonade out of lemons. So we'll see about that one. What did you think of Aode's debut, by the way, Alex?
Yeah, I thought he was actually pretty good. I mean, I think Greg kind of switched back to like the 3-5-2. You had Jovic come in, you had Aguirre come in, kind of play right wing back. Caligari kind of was like a right-sided center back, which he fits that role pretty well. He looked pretty tired and didn't have as much pace as he did earlier in the game. So I think Vanny was really smart in putting Caligari as a right center back. I think Ade really provided that width, and he made some really good passes in the game that I was surprised. A couple passes outside of the boot. He kind of looked to kind of get into a rhythm of the game and kind of be involved to kind of have that intensity as the rest of the other players. He got a yellow card really easily. I think he might have brought down. I think it was maybe Opoku. Or Acosta. I think he brought one player down, got a yellow card pretty quickly. But aside from that, he was pretty good. I mean, in that build up for Delgado's goal, that second goal of the Galaxy, I mean, he made that long ball to that long, not long ball, but he kind of played that through ball in for Jovic a little bit out wide. I think that was a really good decision for him to do that. It gave Jovic the leverage to get that possession, and obviously Chicharitos making that run, and the ball gets through him and long, and Delgado taps it away. I mean, Aude did really good in that pass, and I think if Vandy's gonna play a 3-5-2 and play in a system with wingbacks, you're gonna have to put in Aude. I think he provides a lot more than Raheem. I haven't really seen enough defensively to say like, okay, he's an upgrade from Raheem, but I think he provides a little bit more when it comes to playing possession, doing these little quicker passes, moving along, adding width. And I think as long as we start to see that more and more, maybe in this next game if he starts or not, he's going to fit this Galaxy seamlessly. And I think Caligari also fit this team pretty well. I think Aude as well is going to fit really well. This is a player that they're committed to until 2027. They have a lot of faith in this guy. So he's going to get a lot of minutes. He's going to get a lot of playing time. He's, just 20 years old, so he's plenty of time to develop. He doesn't need to be, an MLS All-Star caliber player right now, but there's a lot of promise to this guy. This is a guy who's with the Argentina U20 team at their South American Championship earlier this year. This is a player that was on the radar of a lot of European clubs. You know, the fact that Galaxy were able to snatch him and be able to kind of cultivate him into how Vanny wants him to play, and the fact that he's a player that's okay with going into the attack, that's got the pace. He's tall for a fullback. I think he provides a different profile than Edwards completely, and I think he's going to be a really good fan of this Galaxy team. I'm excited to see him for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that last end, once Vanny switched to the 3-5-2 was pretty good. Uh, I'm not gonna really criticize, that's sort of a talking point, but for yesterday's match, I'm not gonna criticize them too much for the 3-5-2 only because we saw that maybe they were a bit more prolific in attack, but LAFC should have finished that game off 2 or 3 times, and until the Galaxy can establish, some sort of defensive identity and don't just give up a million goals. I get Vanny's reluctance for that. Um, so I was gonna go over the takeaways, but you already kind of went there. So we'll go post game. Galaxy, as much as they tried, they fell 3-2. They're now still winless on the year with 4 wins. Excuse me, 4 losses and 3 draws. I've been doing that a lot tonight. Uh, Funny enough, as I was walking downstairs on my way to the locker room, I ran into Danny Bouanga, and that was kind of an interesting situation. Gio Garcia had a video, a clip where Bouanga was signing autographs, but Galaxy fans, and that might have given you a clue because when I was, I have to walk to the TV studio, and so you walk through the tunnel, and there's just this long distance. And as I'm walking, I see Bouanga, there's fans kind of lined up sort of halfway and he's signing autographs and he's all happy and I'm sitting there going like, wait, you're supposed to take a right, like right over there. And then, here's what happened. Preseason, me and Alex were just minding our own business, maybe like minutes after the Coachella game, and then we see like Ricky, like literally like a little schoolboy. He like jogging very quickly, like just to the bus, right? And so, I think what happens is in the situation, especially when you're on the road, sometimes like you win a game and you're like, all right, I'm done. Like I'm done. Like I want to go to the locker room. I want to chill. I want to take a shower, right? And so these players like they get kind of ahead of the action because all the LAFC players were celebrating with the 3-2-5-2, and then I'm sitting here and I see Bouanga, and then I take the right into the TV studio, and he's like walking like right where the tennis stadium is, and I'm like, I didn't know what to say to the guy, so I just kind of let him do his thing. But anyway, that was pretty funny. But yeah, we had an interesting moment in the locker room. Alex asked Chicharitos a question if he thought LAFC was the best team. He had a very interesting response. Maybe we'll just leave it at that now. But Alex, before we go, we went over it already, but I got to do the plug for the striker. Every game the day after, Alex does these articles. He does a takeaway article and he does day after. It's always great, but unfortunately, unless you get a subscription, you can't really read it. But we'll kind of go over it right now. Alex, what were your takeaways from the match?
Well, I thought, to be on a positive note, we kind of already kind of, talked about shooting themselves in the foot. And that's kind of the main focus of the article today. I kind of broke down all those 3 goals and how they could have been avoided. But I also thought, there were some really good bright spots. Ricky Puig probably had his best game of the year with the Galaxy. He was all over the place in the midfield. And I think Vanny had a really good comment after the game saying, like, he's one of those players that's faster when the ball is at his feet than when it's not, and you see that with Ricky, the way he's able to kind of spin and move and be agile in the midfield reminded me so much of Ricky from last year, where he was able to have that freedom to do that. And it really, really showed in today's game because he was so influential. Like, this is a guy who's not a number 10. He plays a lot deeper on the pitch, and you kind of see him being able to dictate the game, create space for himself, kind of help others kind of, get the ball out wide, help set up those, passes before the key passes, right? So he was doing all that and he was amazing. And I think, if you're able to replicate this model for the rest of the year, this Galaxy team is going to get goals and it's going to get wins. And Ricky Puig is going to be, essential to that. And we saw that today. But another player that I thought was really good was Jalen Neal. He was excellent on the night. Just 19 years old. I mean, this is a guy who, when the first El Trafico happened, might have been in his freshman year of high school, right? So he's seen this rivalry kind of grow and develop. He's seen all 18 editions of this, how they're, so crazy up to the wire. And, obviously, if you know this as a player, you have to be prepared for everything. And Jalen Neal looked prepared for whatever was thrown his way. His composure, anticipation, his calmness on the ball was on display. Made some really good interceptions. I think he just misplaced one pass, so that's pretty impressive. And LAFC, when they were trying to pressure him, he just played a simple ball to get out of it, right? Like he was doing these things that a veteran, one of the upper echelon center ball playing center backs in the league would do. And this guy's 19, like he's got so much potential. And I thought he was really good. And obviously, in a situation where Chris Mavinga gets injured and Sega Koulibaly comes in, like that changes your mentality because you've been working with a center back for a majority of the game. You guys have planned all week. These two were likely informed they were going to be starting. So you have everything, kind of thrown out the window when he gets hurt. Koulibaly hasn't played much. Hasn't played at all this regular season, right? Had to leave to France for a little bit. So being able to kind of adjust and help out Koulibaly as well, at 19, against Koulibaly, he's 26, 27. I thought he was excellent on the night, and he's just a great kid, great person, great player with potential. And I think we're really starting to see, because Vanny kind of always talked him up these last couple of years, like, oh, we have Jalen Neal coming up, but we haven't seen Jalen Neal. Well, I guess that wait was worth it because he's playing amazing for this Galaxy team, and for me, the most biggest positive bright spot of the season so far.
I was joking with Sarah Neal about how Van is getting tired of talking about how good Jalen Neal is because it's like he's got this thing where it's like, come on, you guys, didn't you like hear me the first 30 times I talked about how good this kid was? All right, I'll do it the 31st. He's very good. No, you're right. We were both wondering, like the past few years, you would just talk about him, just endlessly, and then we were like, all right, but when were we gonna see him? Were we gonna see him? We almost thought he was being too conservative. I mean, me perhaps, but you know, Joe Titino, he's reminded me more than once that Neil was injured not for the beginning of last year, and by the time that he actually caught up, the group had sort of moved on. So he was very unfortunate last year, but everything from that we've seen in 2023, he's lined up to be a future star. So Alex, 7:05, man. Looks like we got to take off, which is regrettable because I'm starting to get more and more comfortable on this mic. This is awesome. I love talking Galaxy with you and talking with everybody and analyzing and tacticalizing. And all right, I gotta go before I make up any more words. So I am Mike Gray. I am the columnist for the Striker for the LA Galaxy and LAFC. With me, this is my co-host Alex Reese. He covers the Galaxy for the Striker as our beat writer. You can catch him on Twitter, on Instagram, and on the internet. And all right, I'm gonna go. Take it easy, everybody. Have a good week. We'll see you on Thursday.